Welcome to Private Equity Profits. Clifford Locks is a certified board of director, a trusted confidant to CEOs, C-level exec, and high-potential employees to help them clarify goals, unlock their potential, and create actionable strategic plans. Seth Green is the nation's foremost authority on growing your business. He is the founder of the direct response marketing firm Market Domination LLC, and he is an 8-time best-selling author who has been interviewed on NBC, CBS, Forbes, Inc., CBS Money Watch, and many more. Cliff and Seth interview top players in the financial sector, focusing on private equity and real estate funds, discussing developments and trends shaping the industry. These experts will share with you how they've leveraged the power of equity funding to grow their businesses and increase profits, and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Seth Green.
Welcome to the podcast. Today, I have the good fortune to be interviewing Jennifer Katrulya. Jennifer is a partner at Citrin Cooperman and is considered a pioneer of the outsourced virtual CFO advisory and accounting services space. She is credited with helping hundreds of companies in all phases of growth implement best practices and position themselves for profitable and successful ROI at exit. She is a nationally recognized strategic and operations advisor for high growth technology, service-based, and healthcare companies who are committed to choosing to achieve results over making excuses. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thanks so much for having me. Pleasure.
Our pleasure. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started?
Well, I followed a pretty traditional education path into the accounting space, but also came from a very entrepreneurial family and friends, and just love business and business growth and venture into new adventures. So.
All right. Well, how did that lead to Citrin Cooperman and what you're doing now?
I actually have known Citrin Cooperman for about 15 years, though I just joined them last July, and have always loved the entrepreneurial focus of the firm and the tech, healthcare, real estate, the types of markets that we're in. So after pursuing a number of paths individually and in industry, was invited to join last year and really decided to jump in and help a lot of exciting new opportunities that the firm's taking advantage of.
Okay, so you are credited with you're being a pioneer in the So what does being a virtual CFO mean? What is that space that you are pioneering in?
Well, working with clients who I was seated in a part of Connecticut where I knew I wanted to be able to work with clients across the country, and leveraging what was still newer as far as cloud technology and services from home or from our office in Connecticut at the time. Really being able to work with clients anywhere in the US or internationally, and do it in a way that involved a video at the time, but also transparent work that really supported teams working together, much the way that we've done in more recent years, but early to the game.
All right. And then what are the problems that you're helping these businesses solve?
Really operational leaks. I specialize in working with high growth companies, whether that's startup or they've reached the 8 or 9 figures and are looking at exit. All the things, the growing pains at each stage, and companies who kind of lose their way and get off of course a little bit. So helping with realignment, operations, staffing, technology, really just tightening up anything that's detracting from a company's growth and exit plan.
Okay, so that seems to be much broader than just, let's say, being a fractional CFO. So can you expand on that a little bit and talk about how that helps?
Sure. So to me, the CFO role and the accounting function is reactional in a lot of ways, unless you are looking at operations first, whether that's sales, marketing, finance, HR, and making sure that best practices are being, so really an operations and COO person before a CFO, making sure that by the time you get to the numbers, you're using metrics and technology to really give insight as to what's happening and help create a path forward, but fixing all the things that lead up to those numbers.
All right. So you mentioned efficiency leaks. What's an efficiency leak?
Well, an efficiency leak could be using people for tasks that could be automated and done more efficiently and more accurately by computer. It involves spending a lot of money on a variety of sales and marketing efforts without any real idea of what's driving success and what you could focus in on. It is using out-of-date tools, equipment, et cetera, that are causing more drain for upkeep than they're providing to the business. Anything that could be done better, could be updated, and provide a more benefit than cost.
You mentioned helping companies get a profitable and successful ROI at exit and helping them position for that. What are some of the biggest mistakes companies make when thinking about an eventual sale?
I believe they don't realize that there's pure just math involved in whether they are going to be a good exit, as well as the leadership. When somebody's buying a company, they want to be sure it's going to be able to continue to be profitable, that it has staying power going into the future. And so I often hear comments about, well, they have to factor in this about our culture, and they have to figure in this, and let's talk about EBITDA, but back out these 3 lines. When you're looking to exit, that's not going to happen. You have a well-running company that someone wants to buy, or you don't. And so really planning several years before you want to exit to have a company that is very clearly an excellent purchase or sale is important. Nobody's going to want to figure it out.
How do we communicate that so that they don't think they have to figure it out?
I think really, I advise companies early on, pick 2 or 3 companies that you could see yourself selling to, and plan ahead to model for them. Start your pitch deck, start your exit strategy now, as if you were seated at the table wanting to sell to them. And if it turns out to be a completely different company you sell to, it's fine, because the idea is to make sure that you could sell to someone. And it starts to identify all of those things again that are pleasurable today, or maybe make sense today internally, but aren't going to be attractive or make sense to anyone else. And you have to start to think about what's important to you.
Obviously, you've been right in the middle of a huge shift. How has COVID and virtual and remote and everybody changing the way they work affected your companies and how you're helping?
Well, I think it just companies who for years and years said we couldn't function remotely, we have to meet in order to do business, or technology won't support my business is unique. Well, over the last year and a half, everyone's had to figure it out. And suddenly things that couldn't be done remotely are being done remotely well. But I would also say that the injection of capital in private equity and venture capital and all those things is tremendous. And so removing geography from the consideration so much has also meant competition in ways that people weren't planning for it and now need to navigate.
Okay. And then how has technology, I mean, obviously everybody's using Zoom or something like that. What are some other technology considerations for companies who are dealing with a more remote and diverse and dispersed workforce?
I think having project management or team management software becomes so much more important, because you can't knock on someone's office door right now, or you may choose to take advantage of the opportunity to hire in other geographic areas. And you won't be on live camera all day, and nor would that be practical to function the way you would in an office environment. So coming up with all the things that need to happen and be communicated in the day that can be done in a way that provides information without human contact becomes really important. I think also finding ways to communicate transparently with clients or customers, so that they don't feel suddenly blocked out of the relationship with you. That's going to be largely professional service, but in any market, figuring out how to be in contact on a sales front. Social selling has become really important, and company policies that are in the way of communicating online have been a big problem. So really just making sure that you can establish relationships virtually is critical.
All right. And then that's talking about the management of our team and our workforce. What about how that affects sales and marketing strategy?
Well, I think from sales and marketing strategy, so many of the companies that had these huge workforces suddenly went radio silent when everybody went home, because again, internal policies prevented them from talking. So, and also they weren't used to communicating when you couldn't shake a hand. So education about how people navigate and communicate in a virtual environment, the increased role marketing plays in actually helping support the sales process online, and the permissions to communicate all become really important.
What is an ideal client for Citrin Cooperman? Who are you looking to work with?
So for our outsourced group, we are definitely looking for entrepreneurial, high growth companies who need that additional support in strategy and transformation and technology, advisory and implementation across the rest of the firm, certainly tax, audit, forensics, valuation. We are a top 25 firm, so we really are positioned to be able to help small, mid, and enterprise companies.
Okay, small mid enterprise obviously covers a gamut. So is there a minimum like revenue size or a minimum fee structure that our listeners would know, hey, that doesn't make sense for us. We're disqualified. We're not big enough yet. Or, hey, we're too big for you guys. We need somebody different.
We're not typically meant for public companies, so we'll remove those from the table. And as far as startup, I would say if you are a smaller business, feel free to give me a call if it's a right fit for a bookkeeping organization or something else in the area. I'm always happy to make the referral. It really is dependent on the business and the future goals.
You talk about Citrin Cooperman's growing BPO services. What does that mean, and who is that helpful and right for?
So business process is really the transaction processing up through the controller services. And so the BPO is business process outsourcing of what companies might otherwise do with an internal accounting department. So bookkeepers up through CFOs, we have staff either for temporary projects or long-term to add value and to support the company's missions.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see your clients making that you're helping them avoid or fix?
Well, first would be not knowing when you need the additional services and trying to, duct tape things together just to get by. If a company is growth minded and is committed to their success, investing in the right services should exponentially pay for themselves by helping that company move forward and keep pressure off of ownership so they can continue to pursue the business goals. I think the other one really is with technology, not automating things, living with 20,000 Excel sheets, or not allowing different departments within a company to communicate and get information. Things that can be made faster, money buys speed, and speed, really helps someone in many cases get ahead of the pack. And so we can help assess where technology can enable that.
Your passion's obvious. What do you like best about what you do?
I think, ultimately business success drives success for families and for people's lives. And so being able to see all that hard work pay off and the ripple effects of success are really rewarding.
Absolutely. What I know that you on your own are a voracious consumer of content. What are three or a few of your favorite books that have had the biggest impact on your career?
Oh goodness. You know what? I'm a big E-Myth person. So love that. I would say secondly, I'm a much more a consumer of periodicals. So actually National Geographic, I love to choose my next areas. And the third would be, honestly, honestly, children's books. I love reading them. I think a lot of our most basic lessons that drive success later are learned at the start.
When you're not changing the world of business, what do you do for fun?
I love anything on the water. I started out wanting to be a marine biologist. And so now I like to pretend as often as possible.
Awesome. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about you and Citrin Cooperman?
Well, certainly citrincooperman.com. Please feel free to connect with me through the website or through LinkedIn. Always happy to take calls and love to have the conversation.
Well, we greatly appreciate your time. What else do you want to share that I didn't think to ask you yet?
Well, I think in terms of going forward, I'd love to, anybody who's in the New York or Connecticut area, actually venturing out for a meeting and handshake, but love to talk about events and business growth and I think just what's happening in the various markets and industries. Always love to hear a good story.
Awesome. Well, this has been Seth Green with Jennifer Katrulya. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Make sure you check out citrincooperman.com and all things Jennifer, and we'll talk to you next time.